Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question. Jeff.
Yeah, me?
Yes, Jeff.
Oh,
in the
yeah.
back.
What's up?
How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I got something potentially coming up soon. I can't talk about it right now, but I'll mention it later.
Okay. You signed an NDA, I'm assuming.
Not quite, but I mean, by the time this episode comes out, it'll probably be fine. But
yeah,
I don't want to take any chances.
Okay.
Either way, I'll bring that up on another recording.
Sure.
But I just, I've been nervous and busy.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
I guess that's all I can really say about that. Other than my dog is cute.
Okay. I can attest. Your dog is adorable.
Yeah. So we've been taking her to training classes, and she's not.
Oh, right. She's
doing really good, but. She's definitely not like, I don't think she's going to graduate because I don't think we're going to be able to do every single, perform every single like trick and, like we can get her to like sit down and stay really well. But like most of the other stuff, she's just too nervous to do all the time.
Oh,
like
okay.
it's tough getting her to do anything. But I mean, other than that, she's like super well behaved. She's very sweet and has a really good temperament. So like, the trainers like love her. They think she's the best, and it's like, well, she's not doing very good in class, and they're like, it's like, well, just keep working on it. So
sure,
which is fine. Like we've learned a lot from the class. Like I don't think it was a waste or anything. So
sure, yeah.
So that's been going good. But so what you been up to? You just got back from somewhere, right?
I did. So I had two things going on this month. I went on my anniversary vacation a couple weeks ago, and then a mutual friend of ours just got married just a couple days ago. So I had those days already blocked off from work.
Yeah.
So we drove out to Wisconsin, which for anybody who doesn't know where we are, that's about a maybe 7 or 8 hour drive.
Right, yeah.
We could have flown, but I don't know. I enjoy driving, and I haven't been on a good road trip in a while. So Lisa and I drove out there. It was our mutual friend Peter, not the Peter that's been on podcast adjacent stuff, but we'll call him Wisconsin Peter.
Wisconsin Peter.
Yes. He got married. It was a lot of fun. I got to see a bunch of people that I haven't seen in 10 or more years.
Oh, right, yeah.
So it was really cool to reconnect with some of our friends from high school and stuff. So
nice.
It was a lot of fun. We had a really good time. And one other thing that I want to mention. So a week from the day this episode goes out, we're going to be doing the final drawing for the third of the leather goods from Maumee River Leather. So this is going to be the drawing for the book cover. I am holding the book cover in my hand right now.
Ooh.
The great people over there, they had a bit of a setback like a few months ago. I think they were in a really bad car accident while they were transporting a bunch of their stock. So a bunch of their stuff was ruined. So it understandably took them a while to get it finished. Luckily, I had set this one to be the final one. So they had plenty of time. But I've got it in my hand. I've got it actually on a monster manual just to make sure that it is big enough to accommodate the biggest of the official 5th edition books. And it is. And it looks fantastic.
Yeah. You show me pictures of it. It looks great.
Yeah, I think so. And as of this recording, I haven't yet sent out the second one. I contacted Carl and told him it would probably be a little while. I needed to paint the another Ichi miniature, so took me a while. And also, I had a bunch of stuff going on. So
sure.
But it's all ready to go. I just need to get it sent out. So by the time this episode is heard, that will be on its way, hopefully at its destination by then. We'll see.
Nice.
So anyway, if anybody wants to enter this final drawing, I'm not sure if I'll bring it up again later in the episode, but there is that one more drawing. It's we haven't gotten anybody entering in a while. Like pretty much all of the entrants were within the first month, I guess. But if anybody would like to enter, there's still time. When you hear this episode, you have 1 week left, and you can enter by leaving us a review on any podcatcher of your choice. Take a photo of it, send it to us in an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com, and we'll enter you into the drawing for this book cover. It looks really good. I'll put pictures up on social media and stuff between now and then.
Yeah.
So yeah, big thank you to the people at Mommy River Leather, Alan and Delilah. You guys are great. And for everybody else out there, everybody who's in the running, good luck.
Yeah.
Oh no, I gave good luck to everybody.
Shoot.
That means it's all worthless.
Right.
Anyway, you want to go ahead and get into this episode, Jeff?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So, Jeff, I want you to imagine that, one day you're just chilling out at home and, I don't know, you go to like open the back door or something and you notice signs of possible termites.
Oh, no.
Walls. Now, you're not a homeowner. You have someone else that will ultimately take care of this. But, you start kind of like, you follow along the wall. You notice there's like little holes or whatever. I actually don't know what the signs of termites are. So, I don't know. You see like some neon glow in the dark lines on the wall or something. And you follow them and you notice that there's actually a wall of your house that like you go to push on it and it's actually like flexible. And you think that's really weird. And then you think, oh no, maybe this is where all the termites are living. They're like behind this wall. But your curiosity gets the better of you, Jeff. And then you pull on part of the wall and actually opens up and you realize that there's like an entire chamber back here. And behind this, slightly rotted part of the wall, you see a giant pile of gold.
Oh,
and
man.
you see there's like rubies and diamonds and there's like a scepter sticking out of there. But then you see sitting on top of the pile of gold, there's a little termite on a throne, but it has little tiny dragon wings sticking out. You think it might be like a half dragon termite. I don't know if such a thing can exist.
Why not?
But in a roundabout way, do you know what this is that you have just discovered, Jeff?
What is it, Gabe?
I guess it's the dragon's hoard.
Gross.
Yes, very gross. I hate bugs, and I think everything to do with bugs is disgusting. So I apologize, everybody, if you feel the same way as me.
Hashtag not all bugs.
I guess, yeah. Well, so today's magic item was submitted by Sean M. via Facebook, and this is the Dagger of Swarms. This dagger contains what appears to be a cluster of pearls at the base of its hilt. When thrown and successful on a hit, so when you successfully hit with it, the target suffers normal attack damage as well as is enveloped in a swarm of spiders or appropriately themed menace. In this case, termites, I guess. The swarm occupies the target's space even if they move. The target's movement is halved. Oof. The target takes poison damage equal to the thrower's ability score modifier at the start of each round. So if your dexterity modifier is +3, they take 3 damage. This same modifier +10, so 13 in this case, is the DC required for any escape attempts or strength checks to crush the swarm. This number is also the HP of the swarm should the target's quote-unquote friends decide to use the fireball option to handle the menace. The dagger regrows its pearls at every dusk.
That's pretty neat.
So yeah, it's a dagger that when you throw it at someone, or once per day, I guess, when you throw it at someone, you envelop them in a swarm of bugs.
Gross.
Yes, very gross. Not the grossest item we've covered on this show, but yeah. in the pantheon of gross items.
Yeah. No, I like this. This is really cool. Like the cluster of pearls. It's kind of like little eggs for the bugs to come out of.
Sure.
I like it. It's neat.
There was way back in like 2nd edition or something. I only know of this because it was in the Curse of the Azure Bonds video game that I used to play. There was a magic item you could get that it was like I think it was like a dart. So it was just a simple ranged weapon that you could throw, but it was like a dart of bees or something. Like when you hit someone, it would like hit them multiple times. And I always assumed that it like turned into a beehive or something when you threw it. But I was playing a really old video game, so it's It's not like it showed what was happening.
Right.
That's kind of what comes to mind when I'm picturing this. You throw it and then it just like breaks apart into a bunch of bees or spiders or whatever.
It's made out of bees.
It's made out of bees, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much else to say. I think that the damage is fairly low, so it's not overpowered. The DC is probably pretty low too. The hit points not too high. So I think if I had to like attach a rarity to this, I would even maybe say it's like an uncommon.
Sure.
Not a super powerful item. I think it's just really cool thematically.
Yeah, I mean, like it does scale a little bit just because like your ability modifier, your score modifier will be going up potentially if you're if you're going to be, if you're focusing on that. So like it's got some scaling to it. Yeah. So like it's got some potential on, to staying power. Yeah, no, I think it's well balanced. Like it's not like I'd say it's on the lower end of power. You're right. But it's, I think that's a good way to do it. Basing it off of the ability score modifier. Yeah, no, this is a solid magic item. I like it.
Yeah, so like I said, it's fairly simple. I don't really have too much else to say. It's a cool item, and I love the theming. It's creepy and it's gross. So, we're recording this before Halloween, so I'm still in the Halloween spirit, and I think that fits pretty good. So
nice.
So once again, that was the Dagger of Swarms submitted by Sean M via Facebook. Thank you very much, Sean M. Jeff, if anybody else wanted to be like Sean M and submit magic items for the Dragon's Horde, or questions for our main segment, or stories for the funeral pyre, how would they get those to us?
They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
That's correct. And then quick reminder that if you write us a review and take a picture of it and email it to us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com, you can be entered into the drawing for the Maumee River Leather book cover. So that drawing is going to be a week from today on the episode after this one. So good luck to everybody out there. And just one more quick thing before we get into questions. Check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out Crit Academy, critacademy.com. The great people over there make new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. Also check out Brute Force and Ignorance. They're an actual play podcast. And a couple other podcasts that are no longer making episodes. Check out D&D Character Lab and check out the Kind GM podcast. So check out all those other podcasts. Enough of all that. Let's get into some questions, Jeff.
Gabe, I don't know if you're going to like this question. This one comes from Darren W. on email, and they ask, what methods would you recommend to let someone survive in a bag of holding for as long as possible?
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's a fun little exercise, and I don't even know if I'm going to have like a ton to say about it. I've got a couple ideas, but we can see what we can come up with. So for anybody who is not familiar with the bag of holding, I've talked about it in the past. That's why, and I'm not a huge fan of it, as Jeff alluded to. This bag has an interior space considerably larger than its outside dimensions, roughly 2 feet in diameter at the mouth and 4 feet deep. The bag can hold up to 500 pounds, not exceeding a volume of 64 cubic feet. The bag weighs 15 pounds regardless of its contents. Retrieving an item from the bag requires an action. If the bag is overloaded, pierced, or torn, it ruptures and is destroyed. Its contents are scattered in the astral plane. If the bag is turned inside out, its contents spill forth unharmed, but the bag must be put right before it can be used again. Breathing creatures inside the bag can survive up to a number of minutes equal to 10, divided by the number of creatures, minimum 1 minute, after which time they begin to suffocate. Placing a bag of holding inside an extra-dimensional space created by a handy haversack, portable hole, or similar item instantly destroys both items and opens a gate to the astral plane. The gate originates where one item was placed inside the other. Any creature within 10 feet of the gate is sucked through it to a random location on the astral plane. The gate then closes. The gate is one way only and can't be reopened. So the obvious answer here is you need a container that can hold a lot of air for them to have with them. So if you give them a bag of holding or a portable hole to go inside the bag with them, they'll have all the air they can breathe.
Right.
It will just happen to be astral plane air.
Right.
For the rest of their life.
Yeah.
So.
Wait, is the astral plane breathable normally?
As far as I know.
Okay. So yeah, it just, yeah.
So
I don't know. You open up the bag every once in a while.
Well, yeah, so that's the simplest one for me. I don't see any reason to think that you can't just leave the bag open. I mean, as I've said in previous episodes, it is a bag.
Uh-huh.
Yes, the inside is larger than the outside. Yes, there are weird rules about it has some connection to the astral plane or whatever, but I mean, the opening is an opening. If you can put an arm in there, if you can throw a gem or I don't know, crossbow or something in there, air can get through the opening too. I think it's weird that there is an air limit at all. Does this thing form like an airtight seal? I guess the implication is yes. I don't know why, but I mean, yeah, you just leave the bag open and
right. Yeah, because like the bag's made out of like a fabric or something, and air can get through fabric. You know, it's like, I mean, we've all been wearing masks this whole time. That
right.
You know,
there have been people who say like, oh no, like air can't get through the bag because it's actually a portal to the astral plane or whatever. But like, whatever, it's a bag. Unless otherwise stated, I strongly feel that it follows all of the rules of bags. Except
properties
where otherwise
of bag.
Stated. Exactly. So, whatever. There is something in the rules about there's 10 minutes worth of air inside a bag. Okay. And I can understand why that's important, because that could be a valid tactic to have someone, probably someone small, hide inside the bag. Okay, cool. Rather than leave it 100% up to the DM, because some DMs are going to be like, nope, there's no air. It's a vacuum. Food doesn't even age. If you put food inside the bag, it stays good forever because it's a vacuum, whatever. I've heard that take as well. Rather than leave it completely up to the DM, they did say there's 10 minutes worth of air inside the bag. So, rather than point out things like, oh, well, what happens when that 10 minutes is up and then you open it up? Does it just all instantly replenish itself? Whatever. I don't know.
Right.
Whatever the case, just assume it's an airtight thing. When it's closed, it forms an airtight seal. Okay. So what are some things that you can do to give someone additional air so they can stay in the bag as long as possible?
Snorkel.
Yeah. I mean, a straw, a big
some sort of straw-like thing.
I would say maybe 2 straws. One for breathing in, one for breathing out.
Okay.
There's a riddle that I remember hearing a long time ago where there's, I don't know, it's like back in Japanese feudal era, and there's like some feudal lord is like under attack, and his assistant gives him like a 3-foot long straw. And they're like, okay, go hide in the water, hide underwater, use this straw. You'll be able to breathe in and breathe out. So he goes and hides underwater with this straw, and then they go and they find him a few hours later, and he's dead. He died underwater. He suffocated, and then it's because his assistant was actually one of the assassins or whatever. And it's because the straw was so long that he couldn't breathe in all of the air and then breathe out all of the air so that their new air would come in. He was just breathing in the same carbon dioxide the whole time because the straw was so long. So give them 2 straws is the answer, is the lesson here.
Well, can't
one
you also just
one for breathing out.
Breathe out in the water?
Jeff, it was
I mean, I'm not a professional straw breather, but
right. I think that's obvious.
There might be something where like if you remove your mouth from the straw, water will get up in it, and then that's just a whole problem by itself.
He could like breathe out the side of his mouth or something.
Or
you make
like
a good point
on your nose or something. I don't know. I don't know.
But I guess then I gotta ask, if a straw is holding the opening open, is it an airtight seal? Is the bag limited to those? See, this is why I hate the bag of holding, because there is enough science or enough math or whatever in the description to make you question everything, and you lose sight of the fact, guys, it's a bag.
It's a dang
It behaves like a bag, except where otherwise noted.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there's a magic item called like the bottle of air. You could give them a bottle of air. It's
sure.
just like
yeah.
a bottle that like replenishes itself with air.
Yeah. Or I feel like there's like a magic item that like goes over your head, and then you just get like a bubble of air or something like that. It's kind of like a.
There's like a necklace of adaptation, I think, that lets you breathe wherever there isn't air.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
So there are a few other magic items that would allow you to do this. Some of them are powerful, some of them are not so. Like the necklace of adaptation is fairly powerful because it does other stuff too. It makes you immune to like gas-based poisons and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But some of them are fairly low power level. Also, I mean, you could just, rather than, I mean, I joked about bringing another bag of holding into the bag of holding, but maybe just bring a bag of air or something, some sort of a container of air. Maybe a DM would maybe let you use like prestidigitation to create, a round's worth of air. If you're constantly casting it, maybe you can breathe indefinitely. I don't think that would be overpowered because you're using your action every round just to survive.
Sure. Yeah. Huh.
I don't know. Just stop using a bag of holding. That's the answer.
just stop using it for other than holding items.
Right. I'm sure I've talked about this on the podcast before, but in the Age of Worms campaign, I gave Steve's character, Shadowhane Silverbones, I gave him a bag of holding.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, over the course of the campaign, I started giving it more and more traits. Like Steve noticed that, you could actually like kind of unfold it and it would get bigger. So it had like bigger capacity because there were like different sizes of bags of holding back in 3rd edition.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was this whole thing. It turned out that there was somebody living in the bag the whole time and he just never noticed.
Right. Yeah.
And so he like eventually went inside the bag and he had like a sitting room and like, tea and cakes and stuff inside the bag of holding. So in that case, as the DM, I just ignored the air limitation. It's fun. He can go inside the bag anytime he wants.
Every once in a while, like wipes.
He was eating something at a fancy dinner party, and a hand reaches out because he had turned the bag into just like he had glamoured his clothes so that it was just part of his clothes. And so an arm reaches out from inside his jacket, wipes off his mouth, and then just goes back in where it came from.
Right.
And Steve didn't even notice. He just went on talking about whatever he was talking about. So yeah, I don't really have any other good answers for this. There's magic items. You can leave the opening, just leave it open. 1 or more straws, The DM, just don't worry about it. That's what I would say to the DM. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't even sweat.
Yeah.
All right, our next question comes from Zaurish9 on Reddit, and they ask, when a PC dies, what level do you give to the new PC?
Yeah. I feel like we've touched on this like maybe 200 episodes ago or something, but it's worth a revisit. So let's say everybody's 10th level. You're going along through an adventure. One of the PCs dies, and then you choose to either they can't be brought back, or you choose to not let them be brought back, or maybe their ghost lives on in your haunted mansion that we covered last episode. So they're going to bring in a new PC. What do you do? Do you bring them in at the same level as everybody else? Do you bring them in at 1 level below, or some other number of levels below? Or do you make them come in as a brand new, rosy-cheeked first level character?
I don't like the idea of going in lower level.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I don't know, I feel like a long time ago we kind of discussed this, not on the show necessarily. Well, I'm sure we've maybe talked about it on the show before.
At some point, but it's been a while.
Yeah. One thing that comes to mind that I feel like we've talked about is maybe something like they're the same level, but like for an adventure or two, maybe they have like a -1 to everything or something.
Okay. That's kind of what happens if you raise dead or you resurrect somebody. You have like resurrection sickness for a little while.
Sure. So yeah, it'd basically be the same penalty. I feel like that's fair because either your character is going to get resurrected,
mm-hmm.
and then therefore will have the resurrection sickness, or you're going to make a new character, and in that case, maybe you would have some form resurrection sickness, even though it's not actually resurrection sickness, but it's mechanically the same.
Sure.
Like, or like the character's not going to have all of the gear that it's gonna have in the end.
Yeah,
like, and like if everybody's got a bunch of magic items because it's stuff that they've gathered along the campaign and the adventures. The new PC isn't gonna just show up with the exact same caliber of magical items. That might seem a little odd.
It could, yeah.
But it could be something that they kind of like. They work into over an adventure or two just to kind of catch up, but they still get to be at the same level.
Sure.
Just so nobody's falling behind. I like that always seems rough.
Yeah, personally, I'm always a fan of just bring them in at the same level. I mean, if they're abusing it by like purposely letting their character die just so they can remake their other character, I think that is going to be a problem far less than people think it is. I think that if somebody is doing that, it's probably a symptom of a bigger problem. So, generally speaking, I'm just like, just get them in, because I don't want their character's death to feel like they are being punished for it. You know what I mean? Nobody wants their character to die. I mean, okay, maybe if they do just really want to remake their character because some new source book came out, whatever. But generally speaking, it sucks when your character dies. So rubbing salt in the wound by making the new character be weaker than everybody else, especially if you're playing a game, because, some versions of D&D or whatever don't necessarily make it easy for you to catch up. You'll always be behind everybody else to some extent if you're just starting at a lower level. So like what you were saying with, the resurrection sickness, or just giving them like a -1 for a session or two. That's better than just having them start at a lower level. But I don't know. Just like what's cool about making them start at a lower level? Like who is like, oh man, that makes the game so much more fun.
Yeah.
Like with magic items, okay, I can understand not giving them a ton of magic items if there have been a ton of magic items. But, ideally you want the player to get back into the game, to continue playing, and continue playing at the same pace they were playing before. You don't want people to be so like afraid of dying that they don't take any risks. You don't want them to say, well, if I die doing this thing, then I'm coming back as an 8th level character instead of a 10th level character. You don't want that to be what's on their mind. You want them to play their character, do what's appropriate, do what's going to be fun. If they die, that sucks. It's, everybody is going to be bummed when their character dies. So just get them back in there as smoothly as possible. Don't put a bunch of, don't necessarily do a bunch of penalties. And if you are going to do penalties, have them be temporary penalties so that they're not always behind everybody else for the rest of the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being in online discussions with people who they were like, people who played D&D back in the first edition days. And if you died, you came back at level 1. You were a squire that shined everybody's shoes until the rest of them died. And then you were the only one who survived. And now you're level 5 instead of level 1. So now when they come in with their level 1 characters, then they're the ones that shine your shoes, and so on and so on. And like, no part of that sounds fun to me. I could understand like maybe if it was a role play thing.
Sure.
If it wasn't a mechanical thing, if it was just like story-wise, we're going to play around with like, oh yeah, you have to be subservient until you've earned your place in the party. Okay, in the right group, that could be fun. But if it's like, well, great, I'm not even able to do anything in combat, I'm probably going to die again because I'm the level 1 character in the group of level 10 characters. And, so we're fighting level 8, 9, 10, 11 CR monsters. So like, that just doesn't sound fun to me. That sounds like so much hassle. Just, they're heroes. Just let them play a hero, get them back in the game, fight some superheroes, and just go from there.
Yeah.
Fight some supervillains, I mean.
Right, yeah. So
I don't know. I mean, like, even in 3rd edition, it was part of the rules that if you died and if you didn't use a true resurrection, if it was a raise dead or a resurrection, you lost a level. You came back at one level lower than you were previously. And I always thought that sucked. We were always finding ways to give everybody true resurrections instead of having to resort to raised deads, just because even when you're running the game, you don't want one of the players to be behind the rest of the players because it just sucks. You know what I mean?
It's no fun.
Yeah.
It's not necessary. Like, I don't think, it really doesn't add anything to game to hold someone back like that.
Right. I can understand the thought process behind being like, I don't want them to come back and feel like nothing bad happened to them. I don't want them to view death as not being a setback. But like, death is, I feel like death is always a setback, even when you come back at the same level, because you don't get to play that character anymore. You didn't die because you chose to die. You died because something bad happened. Mm-hmm. So like, just let them play the game.
All right, our next question comes from Black Magus 2651 on Discord, and they ask, what is the strangest mount you've ever had?
Yeah. Have you ever had a character with a mount, Jeff?
I know I had a character that rode around on a wolf. I don't know if it was... Oh, no, it was a riding dog. It wasn't a wolf.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a riding dog. I had a halfling rogue that rode around on a riding dog. It was that one campaign.
Was that Red Hand of Doom?
Yeah, where we were playing two characters.
Oh, okay, yeah. I wasn't sure if that's what you were talking about. I couldn't remember if you rode a riding dog in that one.
Yeah, but it was the druid I was playing had a wolf companion, but then my halfling I think rode around on a riding dog. I don't think he rode the wolf. I think I had an actual separate riding dog for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I can't think of any time I had like a mount other than maybe just like a horse, or like I might have played like a paladin with summoned steed or something.
Oh, sure.
But nothing too crazy.
Yeah. I honestly don't recall if I ever played a character that had a mount. However, I did still want to cover this question because I almost had a mount once.
Oh.
When I was playing as my character Ichi, undead slaying barbarian that I played with our friend Chris, who guested on the podcast a long time ago, and so I played this character for a while. I don't know why I'm acting like people maybe have never listened to our show before. Maybe that's appropriate. Maybe it's not. But anyway, this character Ichi that I played, there was a point where we were going through the Underdark for a long time, and I think we found a nest of Earthaks. An Earthak is this, like, it's YRTHAK is what the creature was called. It was in either the Monster Manual, maybe the Monster Manual 2. It was this weird, like, pterodactyl type thing, except it was blind. It sensed through echolocation. It had like blind sight out however many 100 feet. And then it had a big horn. It was green. Had a big horn on its green forehead that it could shoot like a blast of sonic energy from.
Yeah. I just looked it up. I know this. I recognize the picture.
Yeah. So we encountered a nest of them. I think we might have even fought like a really powerful one or something. And there was talk amongst the party. I didn't propose this idea, but somebody else in the party proposed the idea of what if we get one of these, we train it to be a mount, and then they suggested my character, Ichi, ride around on an Earthak, just, blasting everything with sonic energy. That's like one of the things that my character could be famous for. And I thought I was all for this. I was 100% down. I thought that sounded like a great idea. Ultimately, it didn't happen. I don't remember exactly why, but for whatever reason, alas, Ichi did not get an Earthak mount. But what if?
But what if?
Yeah, it's just one of those weird creatures that you would never think to have a mount of.
I'm trying to look up the stats of this thing. I think part of it would have been because at least in third edition, it's a magical beast, which I want to say where it was extra tricky to like do any sort of training with magical beasts.
Oh, maybe.
I don't know.
And, hey, maybe that's even why it was. Maybe ultimately whoever was the DM was like, no, there's rules for this and it's way too complicated, so you can't do it.
Sure. Which is fair.
Yeah, fair enough.
Trying to think what would be a amount I would want that would be unusual.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the Earthak stats. It is blind, and its blind sight is only 120 feet. So this flying creature can only see 120 feet away at any given moment. That's pretty awful.
Yeah,
I'm going to be honest.
Its flight speed is only...
its flight speed is 60. So it can double... It can only see as far as it can double move.
Which is, as much as it can go in a round anyway, so...
I mean, well, I guess. I don't know.
So,
I don't want a flying mount that can barely see... That can't see as far as I can.
Well, that's it. You're directing where it's going anyway, and it can see as far as it can fly. So,
fair enough.
It'll at least know not to bump into things as you're directing it. But you're going to tell it the direction to go. You're not going to lead it into a wall.
Yeah. Anyway, it's not as impressive. I thought it was several hundred feet was its blind sight.
Oh no.
Anyway, sorry. Continue. I don't remember what you were saying a second ago.
What about a mount that's a burrowing mount, but you don't ride on top of it? It swallows you whole and then digs around.
I mean, that would be pretty cool.
There's a purple worm mount.
If I recall, in Eberron, there was a one of the elemental bound vehicles that they had was a giant sphere that opened. It was a pod that opened up, and you would climb inside. There would be seats. You could 6 people could sit down, and then it would travel through the earth as if it was a Zorn. Mm-hmm. It would just meld through the earth. It wouldn't even burrow. It would just meld through it.
Yeah.
I swear there's got to be a book out there that has rules for a purple worm mount that is inside a purple worm saddle that is inside its mouth.
Right. Yeah.
There's got to be. That's too good of a concept to not exist.
Yeah, you have your own Nidus Canal from StarCraft, where it's just you just burst out of a giant worm.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, that I feel like that'd be something to see.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, I haven't. I don't think I've ever actually played a character with a mount. I've made some. I've statted up some characters that had mounts, but nothing interesting and nothing that I've ever actually played.
Yeah, because sometimes there'll be certain abilities and feats that go off of having a mount, but you have to know ahead of time that the adventure is gonna be suited for a mount.
Yeah, because you can't really go into a dungeon with a horse or whatever.
Right. Yeah. All right. Our next question comes from I Love My Grandma. This was on Reddit, and they asked.
Well, I know you do, Jeff, but who submitted the question?
I'm on first.
Okay.
Sorry. This was on Reddit. They ask, how young is too young for a player character?
Yeah, so not the player. They're not asking how young is too young for a person to play D&D. What they're saying is, let's say someone wants to play a character and they want their character to be like a child.
Mm-hmm.
How young is too young? And let's, for now, maybe we'll go into other races in a minute, but for now, let's assume humans or at least human lifespan.
Sure.
So let's say somebody showed up to the group and they were like, okay, I want to play a character that's 10 years old. How would you feel about that?
I mean, I wouldn't say no immediately.
Yeah.
I try to. Okay, so I would be like, all right, what's what? Okay, so what's the character concept behind that? What is your idea for that? If it's if it's just for laughs and giggles, I might say, well, I don't know. But I don't know if you got a really cool idea. It's I always go back for character concepts. I always go back to warlocks and patrons.
Sure.
And so maybe there's something there where the kid, it's a kid who's possessed by a demon or something, and they have all these powers, and so it's you have the party has to kind of handle this in a weird way, but the kid's got power, so we want to keep him around.
Yeah.
He's he's helpful. So I don't know, I feel as long as everybody else is on board, it's fine.
Yeah, I agree.
So how young is too young? I don't know. I wouldn't. I wouldn't go too far younger than like. I mean, you definitely want older than a toddler.
Sure.
So I guess sort of that like elementary school like area.
Okay.
Would maybe be the youngest. I like, and again, I feel like that's something that like everybody would have to kind of be on board with.
Yeah.
Because the person playing it was, obviously they're the one that came up with it, so I'm sure they have an idea of what they want to do, but maybe they don't. Maybe they just thought it would be funny, and then they'll get in it halfway through the adventure and go like, this is stupid, I don't want to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you were saying, it really does come down to, most of the time it is going to come down to just like, what's the character concept? Is it something deliberate, or is it just for a joke or whatever? I feel like I would say maybe as double digits, like I would say 10 is probably the limit that I would feel like I know how to even like write adventures for. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. That's a thing too. Like, yeah. Cause
how do you involve this, 8-year-old in the story? I mean, how much are you going to have to cater specifically to that character? I mean, to some extent you're going to be catering to the specific characters no matter who they are, but it is on a different tier of what you have to change in order to get the characters involved when the character is that young. Again, if they had a really good concept, I could probably be persuaded to go less, younger than 10, but 10 I think is probably my lower limit without something really, really good to justify it.
Sure.
And yeah, like you were saying, warlocks, sorcerers, something where they didn't choose to go into this, to be part of this class or to have these abilities. I mean, with a warlock, I guess in a way they did, but they didn't develop the skill on their own. They were given this power through some other force. I think those are really what you're gonna want to go for. Like a 10-year-old fighter is,
yeah,
I don't know. Again, a really good character concept, I could be persuaded, but
right. I think you could even do like maybe like a monk or a cleric, just because like it's like they could just be like trained from birth kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I mean, monk is a bit of a stretch because that falls into like the fighter. So just like like anything like that is more focused on like martial abilities.
Sure.
That seems silly. But just like even like a cleric, but if you focus more on the like the spell side of it or something like that, it's just like they were raised by priests or something, or
sure,
I don't know,
sure.
like they were born in a church or or a monastery or something, and they're part of some prophecy or something. So like,
oh, okay,
they're being trained for this very specific purpose.
Yeah.
They're like the child emperor or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
I feel like I've brought this up on other episodes for similar topics, but one thing that I'll reiterate it here. Let's say someone does show up and they say, I want to play a character that's really young, who's a 10-year-old or whatever. And then they say, I would like my character to have adjusted stats to account for this. Maybe have their physical stats, give it like a -2 to their strength and a +2 to their charisma or something. Here's what I would do. I would say no to that. Instead, I would just say, I mean, we will most likely be using point buy because that's just what I prefer to use. Just put your lowest stats in physical stats. Just give yourself an 8 strength, an 8 constitution, and then put those points that you now have extra, put those in, your mental stats or whatever. So like, it's not necessarily that the player needs to have unique modifiers to their stats, but you can use your stats to represent the fact that you can use your point buy to represent the fact that your character isn't a normal person. Your character is a very young, or isn't a normal adventurer, rather. Hopefully they're a normal person. If they're, used your point buy to represent the fact that they are really, really young. They are weaker. They are less less able to take a hit, but maybe they have that childlike wonder that makes them aware of their surroundings in a way nobody else is. They have that, perfect way to convince somebody to help them out because they're just, a little rosy-cheeked little child or whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
So, that would be a recommendation I would give if you are going to play a young character. Don't try to get special modifiers. Just build your stats with that in mind.
Right.
I think I mentioned a couple episodes ago when I was playing as my character Artemis Red Sleeves, we had a player in the group that turned out to be the big bad halfway through. And when he started playing with us, he was playing a child. I don't remember exactly how young. I think in my head, I think of him as like 12 or 13. But he was just a kid that we rescued. Like his family had been killed by orcs, and we brought him along with us. And then we encountered some of those orcs later on. And he was just a non-combatant. He was just hanging out on the sidelines. But then when our battle was over and we were going to spare one of the orcs, he freaked out and then shot this bolt of, crackling black energy. And we realized he's a warlock. Spoilers, he was not actually a child. He was a fully grown tiefling that had taken the form of a child. His family hadn't died. He had just murdered a family. And the orcs that we were going to let free were his servants that had failed him. So he was using that as the opportunity to kill this orc that we were going to set free. But he had the perfect scapegoat. He had the perfect excuse of, oh no, I'm just a, crying little child. Oh, boo-hoo. And then he killed my character the next session. So
dang it.
So anyway, what I'm saying is it can work.
Yeah.
With a warlock, with a sorcerer, like sorcerers in I don't know if it's in the 5th edition player's handbook, but in one of the player's handbooks previously, they talked about how sorcerers just kind of develop their powers sometime around puberty. And, so you could aim for that. Your character is just developing their powers. And so that's why they're so young. That's why they only have first level abilities or whatever. Maybe they turn out to be especially powerful. And that's why they're developing their powers so quickly after the campaign starts.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely a way to do it. Maybe they're a cleric, like you said, Jeff. They're raised by clerics, or they were, raised in a monastery or whatever. There's definitely ways to make it work. Personally, like I said, my limit would probably be 10. But if somebody had a really good backstory, a really good plan for their character, I could be convinced otherwise.
Sure, yeah.
So I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today. But we do still have our social media questions. Our last social media question was, what was the most memorable villain you've encountered in a game, and what made them so memorable? I kind of just described mine. Do you recall what yours was, Jeff?
I think I remember bringing up, probably because we brought him up earlier in that same episode, maybe, was Won't Die.
Won't Die, yeah.
Yeah. It was Steve's character's arch nemesis, basically.
Yeah. His political rival that turned out to be a lich and hounded us throughout the campaign.
He wouldn't die.
Yeah.
So it's one that I remember. So
yeah, that works. Over on Facebook, Sean M says, the witch in Curse of Strahd, when you learn those dream pastries you've been eating are made of children.
No,
I did not know about that. That's memorable. All right.
Spoiled your dinner there.
Yeah. Spoils your children too. JT on Facebook says, Xanathar got stuck in his lair, got caught, and then he took and learned all my spells in my level 12 wizard spellbook. Somehow he sees me as his best bud, and I am convinced that if I share more spells, I won't die. And then JT added, he did let me go. He just now knows Dimension Door and Arcane Eye. So that's a thing. I just want to say, I love the idea of an enemy wizard learning your spells from your spellbook.
Right.
That's like the ultimate slap in the face right there.
Yeah. Copied it down. Yep.
Yeah. Over on Reddit, we just got one. Alistar the Minotaur says, Tabano, or Tabano, I hope I'm pronouncing one of those right, a halfling cleric turned lich. He was a PC in one of the original games I played, hyper-intelligent, charismatic, and powerful. He was playing 4-dimensional chess while the party was playing checkers. It took 3 separate campaigns and multiple millennia to put him down permanently. I do like the idea of a villain that spans multiple campaigns.
Right.
But I mean, oh boy, if you thought it was hard to make a recurring villain over 1 campaign. Over 3.
Right. Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I didn't get anybody on Twitter and over on Discord. Jacob the GM says, there was this one game I played in with these orcs with 4 arms who worshipped this god that had so many arms. He was quite memorable because he had an impromptu rock concert that had the unique benefit of a ranged mosh pit where the rock came to us as we participated in the concert. Pretty darn memorable. I believe he's referring to our Roll20 game. I think that, okay, full disclosure, there was no rock concert. I think he's making a joke about how I was throwing rocks at them because they were fighting a god, Kugrash the Most Armed. And I used the stats for a fire giant, but I also gave it the legendary action where it could just throw a rock anytime someone had taken their action. So I just kept throwing rocks, just rocks. So I guess that's kind of like a rock concert in a way.
Sure, yeah.
Anyway, whatever the case, I'm glad it was memorable. Stiltskin Koopo 84 says, For Death was a BBEG who had maxed out his wizardry, evil priesthood, and thievery on his way to becoming a god. But you know the thing that is required to become a god is death. Actually, didn't know that, but I'll take it. And he didn't trust the gods enough to make him one of their kind and just give his life away to them. So we did that for him. We stormed his chamber, gutted his summoned tentacle monster, and dealt him some grievous blows before he seemingly disappeared. When Augur used Detect Life, the DM swore and allowed me to see the insect-sized life force crawling away from us. 1 hoof later, and we had seized our campaign victory. We met his BBEG daughter in the next campaign, but it fell apart before we were able to see if, in fact, For Death had become a new god moving forward. So the real villain was scheduling. Sorry, that was me adding that part on the end there. The Beverage Tea says, so mine wasn't really a villain. He was a good-aligned priest of the light in a dark land. I, as the player, got incredibly drunk and murdered his son. Then I had to fight the priest, who ran away and hung himself from the bell tower. I guess I was my own memorable villain.
Oh.
Yeah, fair enough. Collins B says, trying to think of a Star Wars villain that we didn't kill the session we met them, so I'm going to field this one to my players. And then Collins gave an update. According to my players, the most memorable villain they faced was at the end of the Orrery of the Wanderer campaign. Spoilers ahead. During the final boss fight, the somewhat forgettable villain Splugoth the Returned used the Orrery to open a rift to the Far Realm, summoning what would become the most memorable villains, pulling on the character's worst fears. The most horrifying thing imaginable walked through the portal. The character's bosses. Evil versions of the Acquisitions Incorporated CEO Omen Dran, along with Morgaine, Jim Darkmagic, and Viari, took turns attacking the characters each round until they managed to kill Splugoth for good. This left them with an even stronger distrust and fear of upper management. Every time I hear about Acquisitions Incorporated, I'm just like, what is this?
What is going on?
Yeah. And then just one more. Deborah Source says, Black Razor. DM gives my character Black Razor, which I believe was it's a artifact. It's either an artifact or an intelligent sword in the Dungeon Master's Guide. DM gives my character Black Razor. A few sessions later, I start noticing it might be a problem, but is also super helpful. A few sessions after that, we all realize why you never pick up Black Razor. Because Black Razor is intelligent and evil and will take over and make you do its bidding.
Yeah, it has an intelligence of 17, charisma of 19.
Yeah. So let me actually, small little tangent here for a second. So I had this campaign planned for a long time that like I had tried running a bit of a while back when 5th edition came out. It was called the Keepers of the List. And the players were going to have this list of these names that they would eventually find out each of the names on the list is someone or something that, if left unchecked, would eventually destroy the world. And so it was kind of a list of plot hooks, and then they would have to investigate and then go on a quest to find out who or what this thing is and then how to stop them. One of the names on the list was Orlanth the Godslayer. Just like, I think I probably asked around online, just, hey, everybody, just give me weird names. And so people gave me a bunch of names, and that was one of them. In my head, I was going to have eventually, so the players fight some guy calling himself Orlanth the Godslayer, some big orc dude or something with his big magic sword. They fight him, they defeat him, get all of his magic items, sell all of his magic items or whatever. And then the name is still on the list. It hasn't been crossed off like normally happens when they kill something that is on the list. And then eventually they fight another guy who is calling himself Orlanth the Godslayer. And he's got his big magic sword. They kill him. Maybe they divvy up his magic items again. But eventually they realize that the sword is actually Orlanth the Godslayer. It's an intelligent sword that is taking over people and then sending them on this, quest to whatever the heck. Whatever its eventual goal was. I don't know.
Sure.
But,
yeah. Well,
I like the idea of the sword being the ultimate villain.
Right. Or there's the Moonslicer.
Oh yeah, Gargan Moonslicer.
Yeah.
So that's the opposite. The moon, or the sword is actually the hero.
Right. Yeah. It teaches the ogre to be good or whatever.
Yes. So that was our last social media question. Our next social media question, which may or may not have been inspired by recent events. Have any of your characters ever gotten married or attended a wedding in game? Tell us about it. So, like I said, I went to a wedding of a good friend of ours, and just got me thinking: have anybody out there? Have any of you had your character get married or been to a wedding in the game? Maybe they went to a wedding and a fight broke out. Monsters showed up or something, or whatever. Or maybe that's how your character retired. Anything like that. I'm curious how common this is in games. Yeah.
I don't think any of my characters ever got married, but there must have been a wedding or something that was like, I don't know, that got crashed by like goblins or something like that. Who knows?
Sure.
I feel like that must have happened at least once.
Yeah. For me, I don't think it's ever happened in game. Like with my character Artemis Red Sleeves, I've planned out his entire existence, and at some point he did get married, but was did not happen at the table. So yeah, I think that'll do it for our questions for today. So before we close out, let's wind down, let's relax, let's take a deep breath. Let's remember those who have come before us, who have given their lives that we may have a better world to live in, as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. Today's funeral pyre was submitted by Deborah Soar via Discord, and Deborah Soar says, "So, I was given control of a Warforged sorcerer named Z Alpha because their player couldn't make it. Initiative, natural 1. First round, counterspell. The bad guy doesn't like being countered, so Z Alpha goes down before their first turn. Round 2, Z Alpha gets healed awake, counterspells again, goes down again. This goes on for about 4 rounds. Eventually, my main character natural 1'd an attack roll on the big bad and ended up instead critting our Warforged friend, and they went down for the final time.
No.
And big bad number 2, who has been hindering the party while invisible, needs to die. So the party decides the best way to do so is with Wall of Fire, melting Z Alpha into ash, And now we all have to tell the player the entire party, minus our healer, contributed to his character's death.
Oh, no.
So, yeah. That
Not the Warforged Sorcerer.
Right. So I guess let's raise a glass in memory of Z Alpha as we remind the player, take your character sheet with you when you leave. Clink. All right, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned in the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Reddit, we're on our Interparty Discord, we're on Twitter at InPartyConflict. Check those out for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on the podcatcher of your choice. We are on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, Spotify, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you leave us a review and take a picture of it and then send it to us, you have one more week to enter the drawing for the leather book cover from Maumee River Leather. So get those in there. If you want to support the show monetarily, we've canceled our top tiers on our Patreon, but we are still having just our $1 tier. We still have a bunch of people donating at that tier, so thank you to all of them. If anyone out there does want to just help keep up hosting fees for the foreseeable future, every little bit helps. We really appreciate it. Jeff, tell us about Friend Quest.
Friend Quest is a YouTube channel where you could watch us play video games.
That's correct. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show. Basically, it's just asking what your favorite memory is of the show. And if you take it, you'll get 2 free printable board games, courtesy of the great people over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hacker's RPG. So, Jeff, until next time.
Oh, great. It's over. Can you please let me out of this bag?